What's up, everyone? Just working on the C10 today. We got our engine harness dry fitted in the engine bay, so now we need to kind of finalize some lengths on some of the wire harness runs. So we need to start looking at where the harness is going to come through the firewall. The C10 has a shaved firewall, so really we'd like to not put any holes in that because it looks super clean. So we're looking to get the harness to pass through somewhere down here. Problem is there's not really a nice flat area to do so. Our buddy Sean picked up this really cool two-piece kind of pass-through. It's almost like a grommet, but it's billet. So you don't have to slice a grommet or anything like that. You can kind of mount this to panel, run the harness through there, and then you can kind of put the second piece together, and it's got a real nice opening in here. Really clean piece, but again, to fit this on a nice piece of flat real estate, we don't really have somewhere. If we start going down here on the transmission tunnel, we're going to end up kind of with a weird poke through on the harness. So I think I come up with a solution. That would go through a piece of sheet metal, kind of like this cardboard here, a little template. So I just been playing around, cut a hole through there. So I think if I cut a piece of sheet metal in here, I can cut a little square of the floor off. That's going to give me a nice flat surface to mount this billet pass through, and then I can just weld that piece to the floor. And we have a real nice spot to put our harness through the cab. And this will be an area, once the floor is all carpeted, that'd be easy to build a piece that comes down, kind of like a heater box almost, and that harness could be hidden. Harness can come up under the dash, and then we can mount the PCM somewhere behind the glove box. That's the idea anyway. So I'm just going to mark this out here, cut a square of the floor off, and then I can carry on kind of with my harness routing, figure out the runs for the ignition coils on each of the banks, finalize those wires, and then I can start to tie in the chassis harness. So the Performance World fuse block and wire harness for the front and rear lights and everything else on the cab of the truck. Alrighty, well, I have down in the frame rail one of the coil packs and brackets. It's just on the inner C channel right over here. I didn't bother videoing because you're not going to see a whole bunch down there. And I'm just trying to gauge if that's a good position or inside the frame over here, because we also got to think about how we're going to get the wires up to the spark plugs. So these are too short, but they're spark plugs that we have, or wires that we have. So I'm just going to plug them in so we can start to look at, well, how the hell are we going to route these things, right? Are they going to, because they have to stay away from the headers. So it's just going to give us an idea, and then we can figure out some wire set lengths, maybe some angles of the plug boots. These are kind of a, I don't know, between a 45 and a 90. Keeping the wires off the headers is going to be a challenge, and also keeping it so that these are routed somewhat tidy. I think if these were a 45-degree boot, then the angle would kick the wire out of the way of the primaries fairly nicely. So if we had them like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, coil packs right under there, we could kind of run them nice and down. I think that's going to be the winner, at least on this side. Now we just got to figure out how we're going to mount the coil pack inside the rail, and we got to figure out the other side as well. Baby steps, right? So here's a little closer view without the glare, I guess, from the light. So these are too sharp of an angle. So we need probably like a 45. So then these would come out somewhat like that, and then they would clear the primaries of the headers, and then they could kind of loop down. And if I have the coil pack in the C channel of the frame rail, just kind of behind the shock mount, then I could hopefully get those spark plug wires to the coil pack. Wiring for the harness would be fairly simple. Just have to make sure I'm probably under this lip over here, then down to the rail. And hopefully we'll check out the other side, see if we have enough space. But I think this is the solution.